The first FUT Champs weekend has come and gone, just 1 week after the official release of FC25, and some of the squads I've seen, they're not exactly what I used back in the day. You got Belgian beasts Courtois and De Bruyne in the same squad, you got 88s, 89s, and 90s on the bench for some people, Salahs, Odegaards, this absolutely stacked team featuring a player of the month Haaland who costs nearly 700,000 coins. As a comparison, this was my first FUT Champs squad. My highest rated player is this guy's lowest. But amongst these god squads, there was actually one team that stood out. More specifically, there was one player in that team that stood out. And it was this silver, 74 rated Aston Villa Duran card, who he says feels like a cheap Haaland in game. Now this isn't going to be a video hyping up his real life performances, even though the man is so in form and confident at the moment, he could take on hell with a squirt gun. Instead, I want to talk about silver cards in Ultimate Team, because they have become virtually useless in recent years. Now there have been a couple FUT friendly competitions that require only silvers, and there was that one promo a few years ago that boosted only silver cards. Let's be real though, that was an absolute disaster. But Evolutions has been the only thing that has legitimately made some of these silver cards relevant, but that's only because it upgrades them rather than the original base cards themselves being good. Now I'm not trying to throw shade at Evolutions, alright? That is the best thing EA has added to the game. The thing is though, silvers used to be a huge part of Ultimate Team. From overpowered players that actually performed well, to players like Cristiano being over 150,000 coins in FIFA 18 and eventually getting an SBC card as well. So let's discuss silver cards in Ultimate Team, namely their history, how they've fallen off in recent years, and how they could potentially be revived again. And let's start with the golden age of silver cards. Back during the years of FIFA 12 and FIFA 13, when cavemen were discovering fire, there were certain squads that would strike fear into the heart of any Ultimate Team player. Full silver Brazilian teams, or Brasilvers for short. Now there were some good silver squads back in FIFA 11 as well as the years following FIFA 12 and 13, but those two iterations of the game were at the peak of silver beasts. These two squads combined for nearly 2.9 million coins, the left being 450,000 since it was at the start of FIFA, and the right costing 2.4 million. Now some of the more notable players in each squad included Wallison, a certified OG of Ultimate Team, costing 145,000 coins, Kelvin, a silky 5-star skiller, granted most of the attackers had 5-star skills, costing about 55,000 coins, and finally this Lete card going for around 110,000 coins. Now this last guy, I did not put him last because he was seen as worse than some of the others. In fact, it was quite the opposite. He was one of the most beloved in this game. In fact, he was so overpowered that when he got an informed striker card, it cost
2.3 million on the PS3.
This card, with a 3-star weak foot, 84 finishing, 78 ball control, and 69 attack positioning at striker, cost more than Puskás, Eto'o, and Dalglish. I mean, for God's sake, you could complete this Player of the Month Haaland card nearly 4 times over, yet despite all of this, he was still given an 8 out of 10 rating. Now this era of FIFA certainly had its problems and it was not perfect by any means, but at the very least, people would actually be enjoying the squads they used and they had fun just playing the game, something that cannot be universally said about today's version. Now over the next few years, full silver squads were becoming a little less common, but that does not mean that they did not exist, nor did the overpowered silver players themselves. In FIFA 14, Team of the Season Depay, a coveted card that could produce some banging long shots, went for the same price as Thiago Silva's SBC. Now if you think that 650k is a little too expensive and out of your budget, don't worry, I got you. How about testing out this 72 rated Jesse Rodriguez card? I'm sure he'll do the job for you. FIFA 15 had similar players like Team of the Season Dybala being so good that he was extinct on the market for a while because EA introduced price ranges and could not get it right for the rest of the year. Or I guess they still can't really get them right, so that's my bad. Now, unfortunately, around this time, silver squads and some silver cards were starting to dramatically fall off, and you could initially say that it was because of price ranges, as FIFA 16 was the last time that you could consistently use silver squads. Although I had 2 of them in my team when I played Inception and lost 3-1. Look how smug I am. I definitely deserved a punch in the face. But what was arguably the biggest factor in phasing out some of these silver squads and silver cards came in FIFA 17, and that was FUT Champs. Competitive esport gaming was making a lot of headlines at that time, and EA decided to throw their grubby little hands into the mix as well, despite the fact that Ultimate Team cannot be a proper esport even with perfect gameplay.
The game is so unrewarding that anyone can win. Guys who aren't good can win on FIFA 20, and no one enjoys playing it, but you know.
With competitive gaming taking a hold of FIFA, silver squads started to disappear, but silver players were still managing to hang on by a thread. Cards like Akinfenwa, Iheanacho, Mbappe's Inform, or this Martinez team of the season were still able to make an impact for those who were either good enough or had a stellar squad around them. But then, in FIFA 18, we had something beautiful. Now, see, this was the last year of silvers being usable, as the division system being used at that time would be replaced by division rivals. So we had a perfect send-off for overpowered silvers. Remember this Cristiano card that I mentioned earlier, the one that went for 150,000 coins? The reason this guy was so expensive, despite appearing years after the expensive silver market, was because of his pace and his strength. Out of every single card released in FIFA 18, only 36 cards had 90 plus pace and 90 plus strength. One of them was the silver 74 overall Cristiano. Now, I understand the power curve has changed a lot since then, but even compared to last year, FC 24, there were only 2 non-special cards that had those types of stats. In fact, this was such a big deal that I actually lied about his price because it was so unbelievable at that time. The man was 250k at one point. We need this guy back. Now, as I said, that was for FIFA 18. We haven't exactly seen a plethora of silver squads or silver cards since that time, unless it's for friendlies or for evolutions. Or, you know, hashtag Harry doing some type of weekend league challenge. Now, I also mentioned before that it was most likely due to the price ranges as well as the hyper competitiveness of the game that led to this silver card downfall. But I think there was another reason, and that's because of the gameplay. Simply put, it's just not as fun anymore. The gameplay speed feels slower, the gameplay in general is inconsistent, the introduction of play styles has provided more ways from broken metas to be in the game, and there's also a handful of other things that I can't even mention all in this one video. Overall, a hyper-competitive environment mixed with poor gameplay has forced players into a pigeonhole of abusing mechanics. So then what exactly can we do? Well, I think that having a more casual mode, something like a knockout tournament, would allow more fun to be had by everyone involved. You need a break from your 45 game arrival grind or a sweaty weekend of FUT Champs that everyone now says is hell on earth? Go into a tournament and just enjoy using some fun silvers or just any fun card in general. Another thing we could do is have some weekends or time periods that include restrictions with increased rewards. Maybe there's a second weekend league option to choose from where you have to use a silver squad and then the rewards are slightly better than the original weekend league. However, I think that the best option is to just change gameplay enough in order to make these silvers more usable. Now, I understand that this would be the most difficult thing to do, given how easy it is to obtain God Squads so early and what could be determined in order to make silvers more usable, but it also could be the most fun, because imagine being able to dominate using a Silver squad like your Ultimate Team ancestors did from a decade ago. Unfortunately, the gameplay has reduced the skill gap enough that even though better players can indeed still win more often, it's still not as large as it should be. Make gameplay faster, make it more responsive, and make it more arcadey. Not everything has to be as hyper realistic because, as I said in my last video, This is a video game. But who knows, right? Maybe one day we'll be able to properly use silvers once again.
You're not living in your purpose. You waking up and you don't know the reason. You waking up and you don't have no design in mind. Your life has no purpose, no